DEI disaster. First black female sheriff indicted on 30 felonies over incompetence. Let's get into it.
Susan Hudson is not only the first female sheriff of Orleans Parish, she's also the state's first black woman to occupy the sheriff's office in the state, period.
We're going to talk about history. When you do break a glass ceiling, you got to celebrate it.
A new sheriff in town, Susan Hudson, breaking barriers indeed, as the first African-American female sheriff in the state's history.
Breaking barriers indeed.
Orleans Sheriff Susan Hudson is indicted on 30 felony counts. So, the first black female sheriff in the state of Louisiana
No way.
Indicted on 30 felony counts. You can't make this stuff up.
Let's get into it.
Here's a quick message from our sponsor, Rumble Wallet. You already know why people are moving to crypto, because here's the problem. Most wallets still plug into the same system we're trying to escape in the first place.
Is this true, Chad?
Rumble built Rumble Wallet. It's a self-custodial wallet that lives inside an ecosystem that actually defends.
Have y'all ever used crypto? Comment below.
Your balance, not even Rumble can touch your funds. This is your money on your keys on your terms. If you're already using Bitcoin or stable coins, Rumble Wallet gives you some more power. Direct fast tipping and support for creators on Rumble without waiting weeks for payouts or dealing with random account holds. On-chain payments and assets like Bitcoin, Tether Gold, or USAT, so you can move value globally without asking anyone for permission. Most wallets stop at storage. Rumble Wallet connects your money to a marketplace of ideas that refuses to cave to censorship. So if you're serious about sovereignty, financial, and digital, this is where you level up. Go to wallet.rumble.com or search Rumble Wallet in the App Store. Rumble Wallet is a non-custodial wallet. You are solely responsible for your funds and recovery phase. Cryptocurrency values can fluctuate and may result in loss. This is not financial advice. Review all terms at wallet.rumble.com before you. This is Susan Hudson, and she's about to make history being the first black female sheriff in Louisiana's history.
But for what reasons is the question.
Glass ceiling, you got to celebrate it.
A new sheriff in town, Susan Hudson, breaking barriers indeed, as the first African-American female sheriff in the state's history.
I was looking at
how old is the state of Louisiana?
It's been a state, right? 200 plus years.
Oh, okay.
And all that time, not one.
And this is what you decide to do.
Been able to get to this position. 2022, right? And so you're like, it's time for all those barriers to be broken down.
First a parade, then the inauguration ceremony.
Now, Susan Hudson is a political activist. She's extremely
progressive
and left-wing. And before becoming sheriff, she actually
sounds about right these days, huh?
Police monitor for New Orleans.
Let me give you a little bit of a background of Susan Hudson. She's running on a progressive platform, and she scored a major
what have we heard that for?
From Orleans Parish District
Before,
Attorney
my bad.
Jason Williams, who also ran on that similar progressive platform during his race last year. Now, Hudson has no political experience, but says it's time for a change, and she's focusing
no
on
experience, huh?
3C ideology.
Wonder how you got the position.
Custody and control. Before voters named her sheriff, she spent 11 years as New Orleans independent police monitor.
So you have this extremely progressive
what the hell is that?
Whose plan essentially is, we don't really want to punish people. We don't want to put people in jail for their crimes. We want to pretend like crime doesn't exist. And this is horrible for the people of New Orleans, because New Orleans has a huge crime problem. Remember
that we know
the
too.
District Attorney of New Orleans was actually carjacked with his mom?
What the fuck? Whoa.
Really shook up. She keeps reliving it.
The DA with his mother?
That we're alive. Nobody's hurt.
This is surveillance video from moments after the teens allegedly stole Williams' car. Amaja Curtis,
that's him and his mom, huh?
Dejon Curtis,
16, 17, 17, and 18.
As adults in this case.
So the people of New Orleans
Damn,
said,
you can get charged at 16 as an adult?
Progressive, anti-police person we could as sheriff, and that's what they did. So what do you think happened? Well, obviously things went off the rails immediately. See, since she is sheriff, she handles the jails. And immediately, inmates went crazy and conditions at the jail worsened under her tenure.
Yeah, but weeks into Hudson's tenure, inmates in a high-security pod at the Orleans Justice Center barricaded themselves in that pod, blocking out staff.
I can't say I blame him. Bro sagging his pants right there. Ugh, pick your pants up. Damn, they sleep on the floor?
Claimed that conditions in the jail had worsened in some cases under Hudson's oversight.
So under the progressive sheriff, things actually got worse for the inmates, not better. And then the controversies just started racking up. For instance, her incompetence caused the court to hold her in contempt because she wasn't securing transportation from inmates from the jail to the court.
A New Orleans judge is accusing the sheriff of contempt of court, and she's now being ordered to appear before that judge tomorrow afternoon. Criminal District Chief Judge Tracy Flemings Davalier says that Sheriff Susan Hudson is ignoring a court order to transport recent arrestees from jail to magistrate court on weekends and holidays. Now, during the pandemic, that process was paused, going to Zoom and then doing transports during the week. However, on June 18th, the judge issued an order for Hudson to resume those weekend and holiday transports beginning this past Saturday.
Now, this became so bad.
So if she got it too, why would they give her back?
6 months in prison with a $500 fine. But
that's
the
all.
court last second stepped in and said, let's slow it down because she is the sheriff.
Last Friday, the
what does that mean? People still need to be held accountable.
Suspended Sheriff Susan
I'm
Hudson's
confused.
contempt of court ruling at the last minute, and WWL exclusively received the documents supporting that stay by the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals. Sheriff Susan Hudson was set to face up to 6 months imprisonment or a fine of up to $500. That's because the Chief Judge of Orleans Parish Criminal Court held the sheriff contempt of court for failing to provide a staff of deputies for magistrate court for weekend sessions.
Now, if being found in contempt of court is not enough, the money started becoming a little funny. Now, context is key. During Mardi Gras, the city is packed. Local law enforcement needs backup. The sheriff backfills her staff by bringing officers from other parishes. Since these officers are coming from out of town, the protocol is to reserve hotel rooms for them so they can have a place to stay while they work those grueling shifts. Now, as per protocol,
that sounds about right.
A total of 90 rooms across multiple hotels. And obviously, these rooms couldn't be used by the sheriff's own staff because they lived in the city and they could just go home.
That makes sense.
Why would the sheriff's department need to pay for hotel rooms for the local staff? They live there.
Information from the New Orleans Office of Inspector General about Sheriff Hudson's hotel reservations during Mardi Gras. The rooms were supposed to be used by law enforcement who had to drive into town to help the NOPD during parades. But in a new report, the Inspector General finds that the sheriff reserved 13 rooms at the Omni Royal Orleans for her command staff, not for any out-of-towners. Her staff members stayed there for a total of 30 nights, but the sheriff had reserved and paid for 90 nights. The total cost of about $18,000, and according to the OIG, most of that came from the 53 nights.
So she took the money and gave it to her own staff?
Not the answer for why is your staff staying in high-end hotels when they live in the same city? Here's what the sheriff had to say.
I don't see a controversy here. No, I see this as being money well spent to make sure that $1 million was also well spent.
That was Orleans
what the
Parish
F does that
Susan
mean?
Hudson defending her
I understood none of that. If y'all did, please start letting me know. It sounds like she said the same thing twice.
They helped with Carnival Parade security. But within hours of that interview, here was Hudson again.
An honorary deputy of the Orleans Parish Sheriff's Office. Love my sheriff.
That was Hudson thanking the owners of LA Canine, a police dog training company in Vermilion Parish.
The police don't train their own canines? I swear I thought that's something they did in-house.
Royal Orleans, Sheraton, and Marriott. However, in this Facebook post by one of the owners, Lance Broussard, he characterized the donation as helping the sheriff with, quote, a little problem.
So crisis averted. The city got all its money back, and the sheriff was off the hook. Now, we got a problem. We got this woman who's been elected sheriff. She's supposed to be in charge of running a jail, but has no experience running jails. So things kind of got out of control.
Legislative audit just released today scrutinized 3 years of operations at the Orleans Parish Sheriff's Department. It found over 1,000 instances of potential payroll fraud, leading to chronic staff shortages and missing cell block security patrols. The auditor found deputies performed less than 30% of required sale checks, and some cell blocks just performing 4% of those timed security patrols. Staffing is a source of the problem, according to the report, with some deputies
so they can essentially have anything inside of their cells or inside of the prison or
scheduled to secure
county
the
jail or wherever
the
they're at.
auditor counting over 1,300 instances of what the report describes as this potential payroll fraud involving 179 deputies over 3 years.
So
oh my God,
the
3
wasn't
years?
really doing a great job. And then you had the
Look like
fact
you caught
that
up
there
to
was
her,
a
huh?
massive jailbreak.
massive manhunt after a stunning
So this was
jailbreak
her.
in New Orleans. 10 inmates escaping, some charged with murder, all considered armed and dangerous, and authorities started investigating whether this was an inside job. Here's ABC's Maria Villarreal.
Tonight, these stunning images from inside a New Orleans jail cell where 10 inmates, some charged with murder, escaped, sparking an urgent citywide manhunt. The toilet dislodged from a cell wall, exposing an opening. Scrawled on the wall above, "We innocent and too easy," with an arrow toward the hole where they escaped, out of view of the officer on duty.
Wow.
Yeah, the inmate was right. This was too easy.
Indeed.
So here's what authorities said happened.
Authorities say it happened just after midnight when the inmates broke a lock on a cell door.
They were still able to exit the jail about 1:01
So what, the cell's not made of steel?
after breaching a wall behind a
Or they're that old,
the
need to be
jail.
renovated or something.
And based on video surveillance, they were seen exiting a door on the docks where we normally bring in supplies, scaling a wall, and running across.
They got gone on your ass because you didn't want to do your job.
The escapees had help.
No way.
Detainees received assistance in their escape from individuals inside of our department.
They say the toilet
She trying to scapegoat, girl. It wouldn't have got like that if you would have did your job.
May have helped the inmates unscrew it with a power tool.
And yes, there was an inside man. Police arrested him.
The hunt continues for the inmates still at large after breaking out of the local.
They're trying to use dude as a scapegoat. What is this, the NFL?
Inside man they believe to help them. A maintenance worker at the jail has been arrested, accused of cutting off the water. The jail worker has been identified as 33-year-old Sterling Williams. He reportedly claims he was coerced into turning off the water by an inmate.
I don't think that's reportedly.
Shank him if he didn't play ball.
That's plausible if you're not doing regular searches on the cells. Just saying.
Returned back to prison.
In another development, months in the making, the last of 10 inmates
he just got scapegoated
from
for nothing.
Louisiana jail in May was captured today in Atlanta.
Officials say a Crime Stoppers tip this summer led them there, and they found the fugitive hiding in a crawl space.
10 men who escaped from a Louisiana jail in May by crawling through a hole cut in the wall behind a toilet. Above the hole, someone had written messages
that shit's so
to the
funny,
jailers,
bro. Like,
including this
oh my
misspelled
god.
one. Too easy, LOL. Groves was
How's
the
that
last of the 10
misspelled?
escapees
Can I not read?
found and also the most violent. He was convicted of murdering 2 men on Mardi Gras in 2018. The New Orleans prosecutor says he is facing multiple life sentences.
So obviously, it seems like we had a bigger problem at play here. So state investigators,
and it wasn't an inside job. That was the bigger problem.
They decided it was time to indict the sheriff.
We start with some major breaking news. Orleans Parish Sheriff Susan Hudson indicted in connection with an investigation into last year's jailbreak in New Orleans.
So this indictment comes in connection with a state investigation by Attorney General Liz Murrell's office into last year's mass escape by 10 inmates. The bombshell news came down within just the last hour. Arrest warrants released Thursday outlined some of the state's evidence, alleging Hudson ignored years of federal monitors, repeated warnings that, quote, enabled 10 dangerous inmates to escape and remain undetected for hours.
That's what I wanted to see.
The jail as understaffed.
Because why are they trying to use the dude as a scapegoat? If they already saying that the cells were basically unchecked, they could have had shanks.
Inside the pod. The warrant also alleges security logs were falsified, and the prison's high security unit dissolved during hours of unsupervised.
That's why somebody was on murder, was
found
not in his own cell and in the population like this. Because I think usually they're supposed to be by themselves anyway. So that's what that means right there.
Possessing dangerous contraband and or threatening self-harm.
But it's
in addition to 14 malfeasance charges and 3 charges of filing or maintaining false public records, Hudson is also accused of obstructing justice and conspiring with CFO Bianca Brown to defy a court order. Brown was indicted on 20 similar counts. The arrest warrants are just a peek at the evidence to come.
So now the sheriff's been arrested.
That's a guilty face. I'm not gonna lie. She looks guilty.
Statement saying, hey, this is not what it seems.
Susan Hudson says she expects complete vindication as she faces 30 felony counts. In a statement released late Thursday, Sheriff Susan Hudson said she will, quote, aggressively fight to clear my name. And she is, quote, confident the facts will vindicate
but she look like a thug in that shot.
And the work I have done. Fox 8 legal analyst Joe Responti expects unsurprising strategies from defense attorneys and state prosecutors.
The defense is going to say that, hey, we tried as hard as we could, we just weren't good enough, and you can't
convict somebody for being not good at what their job
incompetent.
Now this left me to thinking, who the hell is running
You can't
the city of
convict
New
somebody for
Orleans?
being
The
dumb.
mayor's indicted.
Who would have thought?
Been a historic day in New Orleans. For the first time, a sitting mayor of New Orleans is facing federal charges. Today, a federal grand jury handed up an indictment against
Who's the
Mayor
lady on the
Cantrell
left?
and her former bodyguard, Jeffrey Vappy.
Mm.
She faces 11 counts, including wire fraud, obstruction, and lying to a grand jury. This all centers around their alleged romantic relationship and how much it cost the city of New Orleans.
Okay,
he was tapping
it
that.
seems like
Wow.
the sheriff is going to say, hey, just because I'm
Wouldn't be
bad at
me.
my job doesn't mean it's criminal.
Yeah.
Yes, I had no experience ever in law enforcement, and I got the top law enforcement job because I am extremely
I don't know if a
progressive.
lawyer is stupid or
That
smart for
doesn't
even
mean
arguing
this is
that.
criminal.
Y'all let
I'm
me know what y'all
just
think about that one.
bad at being a sheriff. And it's going to be the prosecutors that are going to have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that it was more than that. That she falsified documents, as you heard. That because I'm bad at my job doesn't mean it's criminal. Yes, I had no experience ever in law enforcement, and I got the top law enforcement job because I am extremely progressive. That doesn't mean this is criminal. I'm just bad at being a sheriff. And it's going to be the prosecutors that are going to have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that it was more than that. That she falsified documents, as you heard.
Yeah.
That she intentionally let the jail deteriorate to a point where these things could happen. And then on top of that,
I think all of
lied
that.
about it. So who do you think has the better case, the prosecution or the defense? Do you think the sheriff is going to jail?
The prosecution.
If you're here at this point in the video, don't forget, like,
What
subscribe,
do y'all
like,
think?
YouTube stuff. My name is Nate the Lawyer. I'm out. Peace.
Susan Hudson.